Healing 333, where we use all tools and resources to learn life's lessons, to see where God is leading us, where our spirit team is guiding us. Thank you for stopping by, or thank you for returning. So, I want to talk about The Last Airbender. This has been a show that I have been watching, and it seems like when I'm going through these awakenings, after I have like a tower moment or something, I go through these awakenings, and during these awakenings, there's always a show or a movie or something that speaks to me. It's like I get messages out of it that kind of guide me through my awakening and through what I'm dealing with at the time. And so this time it so happens to be The Last Airbender. So if you're not aware, they came out with season 2 on Netflix. I don't know, I guess about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And so I had watched season 1, but I went back and watched season 1 just to kind of get a refresher and everything. And when I was watching season 1, there was some scenes in there that kind of spoke to me. For instance, like Aang trying to figure out, well, what does he do as an airbender? Okay, he's like, well, what do I do? I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. And I said, I know how you feel, Aang, because when you're on the spiritual journey, when you're on this journey, you don't know what you're doing. When you first start out, you don't know what you're doing. And sometimes it gets frustrating, walking the walk, because you don't know what you're doing. And you may have 1 or 2 people that you can talk to about it that can probably identify, but it's not going to be very many. And the people that you normally do talk to, you can't talk to them because they don't understand what the heck you're saying. So I'm like, I know what you're feeling, man. I know. It's like, what do I do? Y'all telling me I'm the avatar, but I still haven't got the full clarity of what the avatar is and what he does. Like, y'all telling me this, and y'all been having me prepare. Even Aang, he sleeping when he was supposed to be doing meditations, and then he wanted to play. He didn't want to do, the training that he was supposed to do. And that's like us when we walk in this journey. Our guides could be like nudging us to read certain books or go to certain places, but we rather do something else, something that's a little more comfortable, a little more fun to our egos, right? So so Aang is an air nomad. Apparently he's the last of his kind, and so he has the weight on his shoulders of saving the world, if you will. And he has to pretty much master self. He has to master self. He has to master all the elements. Now, when they talk about the avatar, the term the magician comes to mind, or the alchemist, because the magicians and alchemists, they use all the elements to manifest what it is that they want, right? Or to accomplish whatever the goal is. And so this is what Aang has to do. And for a lot of us in our charts, we have a little bit of air, we have a little bit of fire, we have a little bit of earth, we have a little bit of water. Some are more fire than water, some are more earth than water, some are more water than air, But then you have those who have an equal amount of all the elements in their charts. And when I say their charts, I'm talking about natal charts, their birth charts. And so, but everyone can master all the elements. I feel like they can. It just would be a lot of work. So anyway, as I was thinking about the show, the first people that Aang met, as far as his tribe, even though, they waterbenders and he's an earthbender, they became their own tribe, right? And so he met the waterbenders first. It was those two, the young lady, Katara, learning how to waterbend, like her desire was strong to learn how to waterbend, and then she pushed, herself so hard because she felt a way. She felt bad for not being able to help her mom when she got killed by a Fire Nation. So she was always pushing herself to airbend. So she had these very strong emotions, and I feel like those strong emotions and her using her water bending when she was in that cave is what broke the ice. It broke the ice, and they discovered Aang and find out he been in there for a whole decade. I think that's 100 years. He been in there for 100 years. Nobody's seen anybody like him in 100 years. So he's like peculiar because, there's nobody like him. So of course he gonna think different from everybody else. And on top of that, he's still a child. And if you think about air signs, and I know for sure Geminis have childlike energy, but air signs can have a childlike energy. Really, any of the elements can have a childlike energy. And I feel like that's what they was kind of displaying, even though he would have been, if he wasn't frozen in the ice, he would have been older. His friend Bumi, who was in the king of the Earth Kingdom that they visited the first time, was old, and he was like, "You're still a child." And Aang was like, "Well, is that so bad that I'm still a child?" So I feel like what they were showing us was that he's still a child, in a sense that there was still training that needed to be done. There was still a lot that he didn't know. And then just that they were displaying that vulnerability that comes, and the naivety that comes with being a child. And just the preservation of him and his assignment and what he had to do. But he met the waterbenders first, and that was the first thing he learned. And I was wondering why he didn't meet an airbender first. Why water in particular? Why is that the first element, aside from his natural element, air, that he had to learn? And water, water is has to do with your emotions, from my understanding. And water also holds memories, right? So that was the first thing that he had to learn. And you think about it, he met the waterbenders, and he found out that his whole tribe, like all the people he ever knew, had been killed by the Fire Nation, and he was the only one of his kind left. So imagine the emotions that flooded him when he found out everybody that he knew was gone. And then on top of that, it happened the night after he took off on his air bison to go think about the fact that he's the airbender, and he was already overwhelmed. And so that was a lot for him. So he had a lot of emotions, a lot of water already flowing through him. So now he had to master balancing that out. Thus the water bending, learning how to use those emotions, right? I feel like that's what they mean by water bending, learning how to manipulate the elements to help you, right? And then so when you get to season 2, he's, better at water bending. He's gotten good. In season 2, he has to learn how to heal with water. Okay. The next element that he has to learn is earth. Okay. Now, if you are earth sign like I am, earth can be a little challenging for an air sign because they are like the opposite. When you think about air sign, it's just kind of free, liberated, just move. They just flow. They not really tied down to anything unless they have dominant earth in their charts. Okay, now we talking about an airbender, right? Fly everywhere. And he's a nomad. And the way they had him, like with the bald head and the arrow tattoo pointing down to the third eye, right? And then the arrows to the hand chakras. It gives me what are those men called that be in the temples? Not Buddhists. What are they? I can't think of what they call, but the bald men that be in the temples and they know how to levitate and all that. It'll come to me, but that's what it remind me of. And so them, they not focused on material things. They not attached to material things like that. I think it's monks, but they not attached to material things like that. And so earth, on the other hand, earth, it's all about what you can see right in front of you. And so learning how to earth bend was a challenge. Now, this is what led me to this whole thing. While I'm talking about this, I was watching the episode in season 2, and they had went to go look at a statue that was in the city, and it's supposed to be like the largest egg or whatever. It's a statue of, it's a air bison egg or something like that. Anyway, they went to see the egg. They had their little discussion. Then they went into the market. They went into the market, and he's like, I'm Aang the Avatar, and basically they was trying to get some food. And what he found out was, you need some money to get some food. So he was like asking the lady in the market, so I have to have money to get food? And she's like, yes. And so he was like, well, how am I going to make some money real quick so that we can get some food? And I laughed because before her, like in season 1, when they went to places, they're like, oh, it's the Avatar. We're so honored, to be able to meet you and to help you. So they gave him food, they helped him out, they gave him a place to stay. And he was younger, of course, then. But now, you got to learn how to get it for yourself. Like, people just not going to hand you things. Things became a little bit harder for him. So, I said, dang, that kind of reminds me of a person, and I can speak on myself because when I first started my journey actually started when I was in church. But I didn't know at the time there was a such thing as what you call spirituality. I knew there were spiritual people, but I didn't know there was this whole journey or this spirituality, But I've had things happen to me that people didn't talk about in the church. So I said, I remember me being an earth sign now. I remember when I was praying and I was meditating, you know, all the time. Praying, meditating, and, you know, things came as I needed them, right? And I wasn't a very practical being then. You know, I just, come on, friend, I ain't trying to run you over. It was a squirrel running in the street. I don't know why they doing that. We already had a fallen one earlier today. Anyhow, so things would just come to me as I needed it, right? You know, of course I worked, but when I wasn't working, I wasn't pressed about finding another job. I wasn't like just stressed over it like that. Things came to me as I needed it. They came right on time. And so I had somebody tell me before, like, I'm so spiritual that I'm no earthly good. That was all due to me fasting too much, you know, during that time or whatever, or just not being as practical as them. But over the years since then, I've had to learn that you have to have a balance in being practical and being spiritual, right? So you have to take care of your 3D. You have to take care of what you can see that's in front of you, the things that you can touch, right? You can't just be all the way up in the clouds. And so when I seen that scene, I laughed because I was like, man, isn't that a lesson? Like, you can't just be all spiritual. You gotta get out and do some footwork. So him learning how to earth bend was a challenge, and he started to get that, beginning with that conversation with the lady at the market. This was even before he found his teacher. Because you have to know, you have to master one before you can actually move on to the next one. And the teacher doesn't appear until the student is ready. But it was always a challenge for him, because when it came to battle, when he was supposed to be training to earthbend, he resorted to what was comfortable for him. He resorted to what was natural, which was to airbend. And if it wasn't airbend, it was water bending. And a lot of times when we having this journey, we tend to, he's kicking the chicken? What? That don't even make no sense. Why are you kicking the chicken, man? People can be so cruel. Anywho, so his lesson began when he realized he needed actual money to be able to get the things that he need. And I think, where was he at? He was in a different earth kingdom, not the one he visited the first time. But he was at a different one. And so he realized that he was going to have to get it for himself. And him being told about some kind of competition or something where he can make money, that's where he met his teacher, the earthbender. Now, this is also something else. The young lady that's an earthbender, she's blind. So she has to use all of her other senses, and they're a lot more stronger since she is blind. And she's definitely a master at earthbending, right? And what Aang was told is he had to master the art of neutral zen. So, meaning he had to learn how to be still. Can you tell the wind to be still? He had to learn how to be still and wait for something to come to him. And that's very difficult for an airbender, for an air sign, to just be still and wait. And so he wanted her to teach him. And she declined a few times. The thing about this young lady is she's very straightforward. She tells the truth and she don't sugarcoat it, okay? Even though she's a kid, she's his age, but she's more advanced in her thinking. And she was a bit rebellious because her parents didn't want her earthbending. So she snuck and did it and went to competitions and won money, right? So she was already getting to the bag. And Aang just now figuring out that he got to get to the bag, right? So she starts training him. Now, this relationship, he met the waterbenders. He met Katara and Sokko. They a sibling group, and you know they're more on the sentimental side. You know they're more on the sentimental, the gentle side. Both of them, the brother and the sister, but they warriors. Now Katara's a waterbender. Sokko is more of a strategist. So in each one of these people, there was something that Aang could draw from them, but there was also something that they could draw from Aang. He was always doubtful, but also positive that things would work out, because he just wanted things to kind of go smoothly, and if he could, he didn't want to hurt anybody. This earthbender, though, on the other hand, is just the opposite of the waterbender. She get right to the point, and she's strategic when it comes to how she talked to certain people. Like if it was people of status, and she knows she gotta handle herself a certain way because she know how these people operate. So that's how she gonna operate, right? And she was trying to teach them these things. These are people, they gonna kind of smile at you, but they only hear it because they want something. She was trying to explain all of that to Aang and the waterbenders, because they're not familiar with the so-called city life, you know, in the Earth Kingdom and how things are ran. And Aang, he needed that. So what he learned from her is how to stand his ground. Instead of running, you know, or just resorting to airbending, not really facing the situation head on, which is what the earthbenders do. He would either waterbend or airbend. So he wouldn't face the things head on, and that was one of his weaknesses. And so she had for a while kind of stopped being herself. She kind of stopped being herself with him, and kind of was being a little bit more gentle, but not too gentle. And what she realized was it was stunting his growth. Okay, it was stunting his growth. So she realized via a conversation that she was having with Katara, that she needed to be a little bit more mean to Aang. She needed to be a little bit more mean. So when she went to go talk to him, you know, she handled him a little more rough than she normally do. And he said, well, I didn't have a problem learning how to water bend or whatever. And she was like, okay, well, she said something about him water bending. He's like, well, I had a good teacher or whatever. And she basically said, well, you know, they was handling you all gentle or whatever. And so she started talking to him like, you're never going to learn how to earth bend, and you this and you that. And he would like try and get his 2 cents in, and she would keep going. And then he finally said enough. And when he did that, because his emotions, his emotions, he was starting to feel something like, I know she's not telling me that I can't do it. So his emotions rose in a different kind of way. These was different kinds of emotions. it was really like, I want to say anger. I want to say anger or like frustration. Anyway, that emotion that he felt in that moment when she told him he'll never know how to airbend or learn how to airbend, like the way she was talking to him made him feel away. And when he said enough, right, he earthbend. Did I say airbend? Yeah, when he did that, like a whole stone of the earth came up and then it went back down. And then she realized like where she had to tap into him at in order to help him earthbend. He needed to get into his emotions and stand his ground. And when he did that, he was able to earthbend. And once he did that, then they could really get into the training. So now I understand why water had to come first. Because your emotions help catapult. Your emotions are a part of the, what is it called? The equation. We'll say that. Your emotions are a part of the equation when it comes to being an alchemist or being a magician. Okay, so that's why he met the waterbenders first. He had to experience emotions first. So he had those emotions of loss, of pain, but he had not yet experienced the emotion of anger. And that was a frustration of just being tired. Once he experienced those emotions, then he tapped into that ability to earthbend, and he, instead of him shying away from or running from or beating around the bush, he stood his ground. And that's the same in this walk, in this journey. When you learning, if you're an earth sign, you have to learn how to stand your ground and face things head on. Now, depending on how you grew up, how your parents were, some earth signs, they pick up that characteristic via their environment, just, learned behavior. And so it could be different, but the relationships that he had with each of them helped shape him and mold him in some way, helped him to become a master of these elements, and also to help balance him out. So he needed these people in particular in his life to balance him out, even with the warriors, the ladies that had the paint on their face. Even they played a part in helping to balance him out. So he didn't have to do everything all on his own, because he had people. He had Soka, the strategist / warrior, Katara, the master waterbender, and then he had the Japanese warriors. That's what I'm calling for now. The lady army. And then he had the earthbender, someone who can't see. They see by way of vibration. See, she's seen by way of vibration, by way of frequency. And when he was in the air flying around, she couldn't sense him because she couldn't feel the vibration of the earth. And so she's like, get back on the ground, Twinkle Toes, where I can feel you, And so yeah, in our lives, we have certain people that are in our lives that either mirror something to us where we need to improve, or just let go altogether, or balance out, or they're there to teach us something, So when you have people that you welcome into your life, into your circle, You know, some may be around for a little bit, and then some may not. Some just pass it through, but there is a lesson when you interact with people. There is a lesson in there for you. Yeah. Have anybody watched the Last Avatar, the Last Airbender? What are your thoughts on it? I'm gonna cut this short because it's already been like 30 minutes, and yeah, I just wanted to say that I thought it was funny that he was trying to get something to eat with no money. And, you know, he had to like kind of start focusing on material things a little more just to be able to take care of himself, because everybody's not going to hand something to you, right? And then, of course, there is, I said I was going to stop. There's one more thing. The people that, the guy, the chief, what is he? The chief of culture? I think he's the chief of culture, so he pretty much knows each culture, each element, what they like, right? And so he brings them gifts when they get to this other earth kingdom after being handled. And it was strange because I heard the word handler like when I was in between my sleep and wake state, saying something about somebody being a handler, but I didn't really know what that meant. And so when I heard it again on The Last Airbender, I'm like, what? Something about the handler, but they were being handled, right? He needed to go see the king, and they kept saying, well, they'll put a request in, all this, that. But the man that he thought he could trust turned out was the very person that was keeping him from talking to the king. And this person also manipulated the king, and you know, he was one of those people that seen that you was naive, that you was unsure about which direction to go in and things like that, and he played on it. So in our journeys, you know, there are going to be people like that, like they can sense that you're uncertain about yourself, you know, that you have certain doubts, and when they see that you are open to whatever advice they have, and you seem to be trusting of them, they play on that, right? So, you know, of course you don't want to close your heart off. Your heart should be open, but you know, he's learning also discernment, right? And it wasn't until he spoke with the general that he found out that he had been giving his whole play-by-play to the enemy. So I think The Last Airbender is a good show, you know, showing how when you have a mission, a calling, that you will come across people that are of like minds. You know, their goal is to stop a war, stop the Fire Nation from destroying all of the other elements or all of the other nations. They're trying to stop them from destroying the Earth Nation and the Water Nation, because they already destroyed a whole nation of air nomads. And so this is what they're doing. And in our journey, you know, we all have things that we have to do, and it can be challenging. And, you know, once you come to that enlightenment that you're supposed to be doing a certain thing, and you like, how am I going to do that? And then it's uncomfortable because it's not what you're used to. You know, you come across people who can understand what you're saying, and you feel like you could talk to them, but they don't have your best intentions at heart, and they'll try and play on that. You know, eventually they get found out, right? But it's so much in there. If you haven't watched it, you know, go watch it, because it's one of them shows where you gotta catch the nuggets. And so yeah, let me know if you have watched it before. It's so much in there. It's so much in there. Even with when they go to the spiritual library, so Aang, the air nomad, the avatar, is strong enough to go into meditation to separate his spirit from his body, not just for himself, but also for his tribe, the ones that he's traveling with. Now, he's really the only one who's authorized to be in the spiritual world, because as an air nomad, as an airbender, well, not even that, as an avatar, he has both a foot in the physical world and in the spiritual world. He's like the bridge, okay, between the spiritual world and the physical world. And so he has access to be on that side versus his friends that are I don't want to say regular, because they are special, but they wasn't the avatar. He was the avatar. So the avatar has to have access to both worlds in order to be able to, contact his ancestors, the avatars before him. And, he needed that to be able to do what he needed to do as an avatar. And so they all ended up in the spiritual library, which was taken from mankind because, they were using the information and knowledge they gained to hurt other people, like we do. Not we, as in me and other people, but like people do when they learn something new about spirituality or, spell work or whatever. A lot of people want to use it to harm other people. And that's probably one of the reasons a lot of these things have been kept under wraps. A lot of reasons why things are spoken in parables and things like that, where you have to kind of be able to decode or discern what's being said, because people take the information and use it for evil, trying to harm other people over frivolous things. And so they got to the spiritual library and they met the spirit of knowledge, which is like a big owl. And they also seen that in this library were all kinds of artifacts and things from people that they knew that had already transitioned over, okay? So they met, one of them met the avatar that was a firebender before Aang. Aang met an avatar that was an air nomad like himself. And then I think there was the two that showed up during that time. But she was telling him, like, you can't keep peace all the time. You can't be, like, you can't keep balance all the time. That's why you have a new avatar. So basically what she was telling him was, like, you trying to do things where nobody gets hurt all the time, and you can't do that. She said she tried to make peace, like do everything in a peaceful way, and the spirit world was getting mad at her because you're not balancing nothing. Now you trying to do it in a peaceful way, but you got these people over here that's trying to kill everybody. So what you gonna do? You gonna keep trying to do things peaceful when they over here destroying whole nations? You know what I mean? So because she handled things the way she handled them, she wasn't balanced within herself, because she was trying to utilize peace all the time. And sometimes you don't need peace, you need war, okay? And because she did things the way she did, the avatar after her had to rebalance some things, so things were harder for them. And I feel like that's what happened. So when they was in the spiritual library, that's really was the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records is like that place within you where you can access, knowledge from other lifetimes, it's like all kinds of knowledge. Things that you just wouldn't think about just here, so if you had, like, if you used to paint in a previous lifetime, you access the Akashic Records, and one day you just painting and you don't know why you paint. It's because you actually access that, and you know it's coming into fruition. You know, it's that desire there to want to paint. And of course, then they didn't go to try and hurt anybody. They were just trying to stop the Fire Nation from destroying the other nations. So I thought that was cool for them to show the Akashic records in that way, and then showing how karma can affect the next person, the next generation, when you don't do what you're supposed to do. And that was kind of excuse me, my ears started itching. That was cool. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with y'all. This video kind of long. Anyways, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.